Hi everyone, so my research interests are in the writing skills of children with autism. So writing skills are an important part of every single child's education. However, 19 out of 20 students with documented developmental disabilities do not learn significant writing skills. The National Assessment of Education released a report in 2007 showing that 33% of 8th graders and 25% of 12th graders demonstrated writing proficiency. This information is staggering, but what's even more staggering is the writing proficiencies of students with disabilities was only 6% of 8th graders and 5% of 12th graders. So what does this mean for students with developmental disabilities? Students with less than sufficient writing skills become disadvantaged in classes and in means of assessment involving writing tasks. This can be more widespread than just classes of English, writing, languages. It can impact their other classes as well. These early deficits in writing can often intensify as students progress through school, culminating in a decreased likelihood to be accepted into post-secondary educational programs. So the research I'm going to be doing is under the head of Dr. Joanna Price at Western Carolina University. So she's submitted a grant that's been accepted for research this summer, which will consist of a team of Dr. Price, myself, a graduate student, and one incoming freshman. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare the writing skills of students with high-functioning autism spectrum disorder to those students that are typically developing, and we're going to describe the writing skills of the students across the categories of narrative, persuasive, and expository writing styles. We'll collect and analyze samples from 10 students in each category, ranging in ages from 10 to 16 years old. So prior to conducting the actual writing assignments, we will have two checklists, one that will be done with the parents or guardians and one that will be done with the student. So the one with the parents will be the children's communication checklist, and this will give us an overall view of the child's strengths and weaknesses across a variety of language skills. This is a standardized tool and will take about 30 minutes to administer, and the parents will be compensated for their time. The second task that needs to be done before the writing samples is the Wechsler Abbreviated Scale of Intelligence, and so this will screen for cognitive abilities and will give us a possible glimpse into influences on writing performance. This will also take about 30 minutes, and the student will be compensated as well. So the writing topics are listed below. My specific research assignment in this team is going to be on the persuasive essay. So you can see the topic at the top that I will be working on with each individual student. Once the 3 different writing samples are collected, they will be transcribed and analyzed using this computer analysis and language transcript program called SALT. And we will use that data to collect parameters on a variety of different factors on writing ability, including different words, total word count, T units, which is like kind of like a sentence, and grammatical units. So we will have a small sample size of 10 typically developing children and 10 students with autism. So we will need to use descriptive statistics as well. So we will use mean, standard deviation, and non-parametric statistics. Once we have all of this done, we will use Mann-Whitney U-tests to provide further data analysis, and we will plot this information for visual representation and data trends. So the hypothesis. We suspect that there will be lower writing skills for the group of high-functioning autism spectrum disorder compared to the group of typically developing children. And we think that there will be the lowest scores in the organization of the narrative and argumentative writing styles. We also think that there will be a relationship between that checklist that was performed prior to the writing samples with the parents and the student's writing ability. So we are anticipating to present this project at 2 different conferences, one at the regional or state level and one at the national level. And we're also going to report our findings in a peer-reviewed article in a journal such as the Language, Speech, and Hearing Services. The funding for this, as I said, was obtained by Dr. Price prior to me even being admitted into the program. And so the funding grant comes from the Organization for Autism Research, and it was an award grant in an applied research competition. Now we'll look at the research that's already been done in the writing abilities of students with autism. So this research was done to look at 2 different interventions of simultaneous prompting and computer-assisted instruction with 5 different males with autism ranging in ages from 6 to 10 years old. So an instructor was trained on this prompting style that the instructors would work with the students during the writing assignments, and the students would be writing on computers. And then the instructors would provide simultaneous promptings for cueing, for attention, directions, simple controlling prompts, small verbal praises, and then at the completion of the writing task, they would have a digitized reading read back to the student of their entire writing sample. So what this research found was that in all 5 individuals, through these 2 interventions, that their writing skills were found to be of an increased level from their pre-intervention tests. While all 5 students showed some gains, 3 out of the 5 students showed considerable gains from the pre-test to the post-test writing abilities. This study did test for reliability and validity, and one thing that I found interesting was a big part of their social validity was a survey conducted with the instructors that would determine if the instructors had a high perception of the effectiveness of these procedures, their likelihood to use these procedures in future teaching assignments or in other subjects. And so they took this survey, and then also what the researchers did was that they recorded the instructor's statements made during the observations of the writing tasks with the students to see if they were able to gain any further insight into the instructor's opinions, since on a formal written survey the teachers may be biased. So the strengths and limitations. One big strength of this research is that they really did give a global in-depth look into all 5 participants, where you really were able to grasp an overall understanding of each student in the survey or in the study and what their personal strengths and weaknesses were, and that all 5 of the participants did demonstrate progress in their writing. However, a limitation is the small sample size of 5 participants, and that some modifications were needed during the course of the research that were not anticipated at the beginning. So a little bit of it had to be altered in the middle of the research. And another limitation is that our current testing standards in education do not allow for prompting during testing. At the final assessments at the end of the school year, they're not going to allow teachers to do simultaneous prompting or have that computer read back the student's assignment to them. So the next research article that we're going to talk about was a single subject design that was looking at teaching writing persuasive essays with children with high functioning autism spectrum disorder. And so what this did was it was a criterion-based self-regulated strategy development, and this focused on the importance of student self-regulation in the advancement of their writing skills. So the teacher was trained to monitor and adapt their intervention and their strategies as needed to provide for flexibility geared towards each student's specific strengths and needs. And this was established from the beginning of the research. It wasn't something that was changed throughout the course of the research, like the last article. So this intervention was through 6 different lessons that utilized a scaffolding approach. So the teachers taught the students to use a mnemonic trick using this acronym POW-TREE that would guide them through the various components of planning and writing a successful essay, focusing on increased independence throughout those 6 lessons. So the students were measured pre-treatment and post-treatment, and all of the students were able to show an increased overall quality based on the number of words used and the evidence of sufficient planning. So during the baseline, none of the 3 students were observed to be conducting any overt planning, and then in the post-test, all 3 of the students showed overt written planning using the acronym POW-TREE to help them plan out their writing and then go through the steps of writing a successful essay. So some of the strengths of this research is that it did demonstrate improved writing skills across all 3 participants, and that it showed that this SRSD approach would be a possible successful intervention tool to use in teaching students with autism spectrum disorder. It also shows that future research really is needed to continue looking at what we already know and what could be some other potential long-term intervention strategies. The final post-test of this was done at the end of the year, so then that makes looking at, how is this information retained over a long period of time pretty difficult, because the students, went home for the summer and then no further research was done. In both of these studies that I've talked about and in other ones that I read for this research or for this assignment, handwriting difficulties is an ongoing limitation in research with students with autism spectrum disorder, because that's often a big barrier in their education overall. And if their writing isn't legible, then maybe they are writing something, but we're not even able to assess them on that if we're not able to understand their handwriting. So our hope is that this research this summer will give us a greater glimpse into the writing abilities and possible intervention strategies for future interventions with students with autism spectrum disorder. Please feel free to email me if you have any further questions. I look forward to hearing your comments and questions. Thank you all very much.